My sister-in-law brought strangers into my house, stole from my purse and gave my child unsafe medication. When my husband wouldn't act, one recorded the proof and forced his family to face the truth. I thought I was just being paranoid. But look at this. I shoved my phone into my husband's face, my hands shaking. The nanny cam footage showed my sister-in-law, Lisa, passed out on our couch while my 4-year-old daughter, Emma, wandered out to the backyard pool alone. She could have drowned, Mark, while your sister was sleeping off who knows what. My name is Riley Anderson. And at 35, I never imagined I'd be fighting with my husband over something so serious. Mark and I had built what I thought was a perfect life. Good jobs, a beautiful home in suburban Boston, and our precious Emma. When my sister-in-law moved back to town and offered to watch Emma 3 days a week, it seemed like the perfect solution to our childcare needs. That was until I started noticing things weren't quite right. Lisa's going through a rough time, Mark said, running his hands through his hair. The divorce hit her hard. She probably just took a sleeping pill or something. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A sleeping pill while watching our 4-year-old? Emma was alone by the pool for 12 minutes before Lisa woke up. And what about the strange men she keeps bringing to our house during her babysitting days? Mark's face reddened. They're probably just friends helping her through this difficult period. Friends who raid our medicine cabinet, who leave empty beer cans in our trash. Last week, Emma told me one of them was playing doctor with Lisa in our guest room, while she was supposed to be watching our daughter. The nanny cam had been my last resort. After weeks of finding evidence of Lisa's inappropriate behavior, empty wine bottles hidden in the trash, mysterious pills scattered under the couch, strange men's belongings left behind, I knew I needed proof. What I captured was worse than I imagined. I want her gone, I said firmly. No more babysitting. No more keys to our house. No more putting our daughter at risk. Mark shook his head. She's family, Riley. We can't just abandon her when she needs us. Maybe we can talk to her. Set some ground rules. Ground rules? She left our 4-year-old alone by a pool. What if Emma had fallen in? What if my voice broke as tears started falling? I can't believe you're defending her. After that argument, I started watching the nanny cam footage every evening after Mark went to bed. Each clip confirmed my worst fears. One afternoon, Lisa's friend, Jake, brought over questionable-looking pills. Another day, she left Emma alone in front of the TV for 3 hours while she napped upstairs. The final straw came when I spotted Lisa taking money from my purse. Money I'd specifically counted that morning. I tried talking to my mother-in-law about it, hoping she might intervene. "Oh, dear," she said, stirring her coffee nervously. Lisa's always been a bit free-spirited, but she loves Emma. And with the divorce, it was the same excuse everyone in Mark's family used to justify Lisa's behavior. My own sister, Kate, was more direct. "You need to get that woman out of your house," she said after I showed her some of the footage. "If Mark won't protect Emma, you have to. This isn't about family loyalty anymore. It's about your daughter's safety." I thought about Emma, so innocent and trusting. She loved her Aunt Lisa, even though she'd mentioned things that made my skin crawl. Aunt Lisa's friend gave her special candy that made her sleepy, Emma had told me one day. She said, "Shh, don't tell." The next week, I started working from home on Lisa's babysitting days, claiming my company had changed their remote work policy. I installed more cameras, documented everything. The evidence kept piling up. Prescription bottles with other people's names, mysterious phone calls, Emma being left alone while Lisa disappeared into the guest room with various friends. My breaking point came during a family dinner at my mother-in-law's house. Lisa showed up 2 hours late, clearly under the influence of something. When Emma ran up to hug her, Lisa stumbled and nearly knocked her down. Everyone pretended not to notice. My mother-in-law quickly served dinner, Mark stared at his plate, and I sat there seething. That night, I confronted Mark again. "This has to stop," I pleaded. "She's not just hurting herself anymore. She's putting our daughter in danger." But he just shook his head and muttered something about family sticking together. I realized then that I was on my own. If Mark wouldn't protect our daughter, I would have to do it myself, even if it meant risking my marriage. I started gathering evidence methodically. Each day, I created detailed logs of Lisa's behavior, backed up the nanny cam footage to a secure cloud drive, and took photos of everything suspicious I found in my house. Kate helped me install motion sensors on our doors and windows, so I'd know exactly when people came and went. The notifications were endless. Lisa letting strangers in at odd hours, Emma being taken out without my permission, mysterious late-night visits. The situation came to a head when Emma developed a mysterious rash. The pediatrician found traces of an unknown medication in her system during routine blood work. When questioned, Emma mentioned that Aunt Lisa had given her special juice to help her take a nap. My blood ran cold. I called a family meeting at my mother-in-law's house. Mark's whole family was there. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law, Lisa, and Mark. I connected my laptop to the TV and played a compiled video of Lisa's worst moments, passing out while watching Emma, bringing strange men into our house taking pills with them, leaving Emma unattended by the pool. "That's private," Lisa screamed, lunging for my laptop. "You had no right to film me." "I had every right to protect my daughter," I shot back. Emma's blood work showed traces of sedatives. "Want to explain that?" The room fell silent. My mother-in-law started crying. My father-in-law, usually so passive, turned to Lisa with shock on his face. Mark just sat there pale and silent. "It was just Benadryl," Lisa mumbled. "She wouldn't nap." I pulled out the lab results. "Try again." "The doctor says it was prescription sedatives, the same ones you and your friends leave scattered around my house." My father-in-law finally spoke up. "Lisa, is this true? You drugged Emma?" "I needed her to sleep so I could rest." "Do you know how hard it is watching a kid all day when you're going through a divorce?" I turned to Mark, who still hadn't said a word. "I'm done. Either Lisa goes or Emma and I do. Your choice." The silence that followed felt endless. Mark looked between his sister and me, tears in his eyes. But I wasn't backing down. Not this time. Not with Emma's safety at stake. 2 days after the family meeting, I came home from work early to find Lisa trying to get into our house. She had been fired from babysitting duties, and Mark had finally changed the locks. But there she was, pounding on our front door. When she saw me pull up, she started screaming. "You ruined everything. You turned my whole family against me." Her words slurred as she stumbled down our front steps. "It was fine before you came along. We took care of each other." I stayed in my car and called the police, recording everything on my phone. Lisa kept ranting, becoming more aggressive by the minute. She picked up one of Emma's garden toys and threw it at my car windshield. "My brother was happy before you. We all were. You think you're so perfect with your rules and your cameras and your stupid job." She grabbed another toy, Emma's favorite watering can, and hurled it across the yard. The police arrived just as she started trying to break our front window with a flower pot. They had to physically restrain her while she screamed about family betrayal and revenge. One of the officers found prescription bottles in her purse. None of them prescribed to her. My mother-in-law showed up as they were putting Lisa in the police car. She had been crying. I could tell by her smeared mascara. "I'll bail her out," she said quietly. "But she's going straight to rehab this time." No more excuses. Mark came home early when I called him about the incident. He stood in our driveway watching the officers take statements from neighbors who'd witnessed everything. One elderly couple showed videos they'd taken of Lisa's meltdown. "I should have listened to you months ago," Mark said, his voice breaking. She's my little sister. I thought I could help her by giving her a chance, letting her be part of Emma's life. I never thought." I watched as the police car disappeared around the corner, my mother-in-law's car following close behind. The broken toys scattered across our yard looked like casualties of war. In a way, they were. Casualties of a family war I never wanted to fight. The aftermath of Lisa's arrest hit Mark's family hard. My mother-in-law checked Lisa into an expensive rehab facility in Vermont, draining her retirement fund to pay for it. My father-in-law finally admitted that Lisa had been struggling with addiction since her teens, but the family had always covered it up, made excuses, enabled her behavior. The police investigation revealed more disturbing details. Those friends Lisa brought to our house, known drug dealers in the area. One of them had outstanding warrants. The pills they'd been sharing? Stolen from various homes where Lisa had babysat over the years? My mother-in-law broke down when she learned that Lisa had been stealing medication from her elderly neighbors too. Emma started having nightmares. During play therapy sessions, she revealed things that made my blood boil. How Aunt Lisa's friends would sometimes stay while she napped. How they told her it was a big girl secret, not to tell Mommy about the special juice or the games they played. Each revelation felt like a knife in my heart. Mark fell into a deep depression. He blamed himself for putting Emma at risk, for not believing me sooner, for enabling his sister's behavior all these years. He started seeing a therapist, trying to understand why he'd chosen his sister's comfort over his daughter's safety. "I kept thinking about when we were kids," he told me one night. "How I was supposed to protect her. Our dad traveled all the time. Our mom was always at her charity events. Lisa only had me. I guess I never stopped seeing her as that little girl who needed my protection." The neighbors who'd witnessed Lisa's meltdown brought over food and offered support, but others in our community weren't so kind. Rumors spread. Parents at Emma's preschool stopped inviting her to play dates. One mom even pulled her daughter out of Emma's class, claiming she didn't feel comfortable after everything that had happened. My mother-in-law threw herself into research about addiction and enablement. She joined support groups, read every book she could find, and started counseling sessions with my father-in-law. Their perfect family facade had cracked, revealing all the rot beneath. But maybe that's what needed to happen for real healing to begin. Through it all, I kept thinking about the signs I'd ignored early on. The way Lisa would get defensive when I came home early. The strange excuses for Emma's unexplained bruises or missing toys. The times my intuition screamed that something was wrong, but I let myself be convinced I was overreacting. Never again, I promised myself. Never again would I let anyone make me doubt my instincts when it came to protecting my child. The real test came 6 months later when Lisa completed her rehab program. My mother-in-law hosted a small family dinner to celebrate, expecting everything to go back to normal. Mark and I agreed to attend, but Emma stayed with my sister, Kate. Lisa looked healthier. Clear eyes, steady hands, no more slurred speech. She hugged everyone except me, which suited me fine. Throughout dinner, she kept talking about her recovery, her new job at a coffee shop, her plans to make amends with everyone she'd hurt. "I'd like to see Emma," she said, finally looking directly at me. "I know I messed up, but she's still my niece. I miss her." The table went silent. My mother-in-law reached for Lisa's hand, ready to support whatever she wanted. My father-in-law studied his plate. But before I could respond, Mark spoke up. "No," he said firmly. "You're my sister, Lisa, and I'm glad you're getting help, but you lost the privilege of being in Emma's life when you put her in danger. That's not something we can just forget because you're sober now." Lisa burst into tears. My mother-in-law started to protest, but Mark cut her off. "Mom, stop. We can support Lisa's recovery without putting my daughter at risk again. Emma's safety comes first. She's 4 years old. She doesn't need to be part of Lisa's immense program." I squeezed Mark's hand under the table, proud of him for finally standing firm. Lisa ran from the room, my mother-in-law following close behind. My father-in-law just nodded slowly, looking relieved that someone had finally said what needed to be said. In the car ride home, Mark was quiet for a long time. Finally, he turned to me. "I had this moment during dinner," he said. "Lisa was talking about her progress, and all I could think about was Emma's blood test results. How do you forgive someone for drugging your child?" "Maybe you don't," I replied. "Maybe some things aren't forgivable. Mom thinks we're being cruel. That family should stick together no matter what. But Emma is our family too. She's just a little girl who trusted her aunt and got hurt because of it." I thought about Emma, safe at Kate's house, probably covered in cookie dough and watching Disney movies. She hadn't asked about her Aunt Lisa in months. The nightmares had finally stopped. Some kinds of healing could only happen with distance. A year passed. Emma started kindergarten, making new friends and slowly forgetting the trauma of her time with Lisa. Mark and I moved forward too, though the ripple effects of Lisa's actions touched every part of our lives. We installed a better security system, carefully vetted our new babysitter, and never left Emma alone with anyone from Mark's family, even my mother-in-law. The family dynamics shifted permanently. Holiday gatherings became awkward affairs, with Lisa's absence hanging over every conversation. My mother-in-law tried to play peacemaker, constantly updating us about Lisa's progress in her recovery program. "She's got her 6-month chip, or she's sponsoring other addicts now," as if these achievements should erase what happened to Emma. My father-in-law surprised everyone by becoming our strongest ally. He started attending therapy himself, working through his guilt about ignoring Lisa's addiction for so many years. During one Sunday dinner, he pulled me aside. "I enabled her just like everyone else," he admitted. "Every time she got in trouble, I threw money at the problem, paid off her debts, hired lawyers, funded her fresh starts in new cities. I thought I was helping, but I was just making it easier for her to avoid consequences." The hardest part was watching Emma process everything in her own way. During a play therapy session, she drew a picture of our family. Mark, me, her grandparents, even the dog, but no Aunt Lisa. When the therapist asked about it, Emma shrugged and said, "Auntie Lisa was not nice. She did bad things. I don't want to play with her." Mark struggled with guilt, especially when mutual friends or relatives accused us of being too harsh. "She's your sister," they'd say. "Everyone deserves a second chance." But they hadn't seen the nanny cam footage. They hadn't sat through Emma's nightmares or therapy sessions. They hadn't found strange pills mixed in with their child's vitamins. One morning, I received a letter from Lisa. She'd written it as part of her 12-step program attempting to make amends. She apologized for endangering Emma, for betraying our trust, for letting her addiction hurt an innocent child. The letter seemed sincere, but it didn't change anything. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. My mother-in-law still pushed for reconciliation. "Lisa's doing so well now," she'd plead. "She's been sober for a year. She has a steady job, a new apartment. She misses Emma so much." But Mark and I stood firm. Lisa's recovery was her journey. It didn't require Emma's participation. We found support in unexpected places. Other parents who dealt with addicted family members reached out to share their stories. My sister Kate became Emma's favorite aunt, filling the void Lisa left with love and appropriate boundaries. Even some of Mark's cousins admitted they'd been worried about Lisa's behavior for years, but had been afraid to speak up. Through it all, Mark and I grew stronger as a couple. The crisis that could have broken our marriage instead taught us to present a united front, to trust each other's instincts, to put our daughter's well-being above everyone else's feelings. We learned that sometimes protecting your child means making difficult, unpopular decisions. At Emma's 6th birthday party, the contrast between past and present hit me hard. Instead of Lisa passed out on our couch, we had responsible adults supervising pool activities. Instead of mysterious friends wandering through our house, we had parents chatting and children laughing. Emma was thriving, surrounded by love and appropriate boundaries. My mother-in-law didn't attend the party. She was visiting Lisa at her new place in Vermont. My father-in-law came alone, bringing Emma a handmade dollhouse he'd spent months crafting. When Emma hugged him tight and called him the best grandpa ever, I saw tears in his eyes. Later that evening, after the party wound down, he helped us clean up. Lisa asked about Emma again, he said quietly, collecting paper plates. She's got a new therapist who thinks family reunification would help her recovery. That's not happening, Mark replied, his voice firm but tired. We'd had this conversation so many times. I know, my father-in-law said, surprising us both. I told her the same thing. Her recovery has to be about her, not about getting access to Emma again. Some things can't be undone. That night, looking through party photos, I found one that made me pause. Emma was standing by her birthday cake, beaming at the camera surrounded by her new friends from kindergarten. She looked so different from the anxious, clingy child she'd been during the months Lisa watched her. The nightmares had stopped. She no longer feared being left alone. She trusted her new babysitter, a retired teacher we'd carefully vetted. Mark noticed me studying the photo. Sometimes I wonder if we're too hard on Lisa, he admitted. Then I remember finding those pills in Emma's juice cup, or watching the nanny cam footage of Emma wandering alone by the pool. Being sober doesn't erase what happened. My sister, Kate, who'd stayed to help clean up, overheard us. You know what they say in Al-Anon? You didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. Lisa's addiction isn't your responsibility. Protecting Emma is. That wisdom stuck with me. We hadn't caused Lisa's addiction or her poor choices. We couldn't control her recovery journey, and we certainly couldn't cure her by sacrificing Emma's safety and well-being. The only thing we could control was how we moved forward as a family. My mother-in-law still sends us regular updates about Lisa's progress, probably hoping we'll change our minds. Lisa has 2 years of sobriety now. She works at a recovery center, helping other addicts. She's making amends where she can. But some doors have to stay closed. Some boundaries have to remain firm, especially when a child's safety is involved. Emma rarely asks about her Aunt Lisa anymore. When she does, we're honest in age-appropriate ways. Aunt Lisa made choices that weren't safe for you, we explain. We're glad she's getting help, but our job is to keep you safe. 3 years after Lisa's meltdown in our front yard, Emma started 3rd grade. During a school project about family trees, she drew our family with a small note next to Lisa's name. Lives far away because she was sick and made unsafe choices. Her teacher called us concerned, but we explained the situation. She commended our honesty with Emma. My father-in-law framed that family tree drawing and hung it in his workshop. When my mother-in-law complained about it, he stood his ground. This is our reality, he told her. We can't pretend the past didn't happen just because it's uncomfortable. But Mark found his own peace through a support group for siblings of addicts. He learned that loving someone doesn't mean enabling them, that boundaries aren't punishment, and that protecting his child from an unsafe situation isn't betrayal. It's parenting. Life settled into a new normal. We created traditions to replace the old ones that revolved around Lisa. Sunday dinners happened at our house instead of my mother-in-law's. Holiday celebrations became smaller, but more peaceful. Emma bonded deeply with my sister, Kate, who showed her what a healthy aunt-niece relationship should look like. The security cameras stayed up, but we rarely checked them anymore. The extra locks on our doors became routine rather than reminders of past trauma. Emma's therapy sessions went from weekly to monthly to as needed. Slowly, steadily, our family healed. Not by pretending the wound never happened, but by acknowledging it and learning from it. Last summer at a family wedding, we ran into Lisa.